Imagine stopping weekly heart attacks or losing inches of body fat without surgery, drugs, or pain. Sounds impossible, right? In this episode, I sit down with Dr. Carl Rothschild, a pioneer in red light therapy who's been helping people heal and transform their health for decades. He talks about halting disease progression, boosting fat loss naturally, how his technology works with jaw-dropping testimonials. The one thing he did say is that if you reached out to his website, which I did, he'll find you the closest facility that has his red light therapy product. And I've already scheduled myself a month of these sessions. So I will be sure to drop my testimonial in a month. But for now, if you ever wondered how red light could radically change your health, stay tuned. So before we start, I wanted to show you my school community I'm always talking about, but this is where I'm spending all my time. This is where I'm answering people's questions. We're brainstorming, doing coffee chats. I'll be starting a Q&A on Tuesday or Thursday, where basically I'm just giving out free personal training. First come, first serve. And this is the platform I'm trying to grow. This is where I want everyone to join who's over 40, looking at getting overall health, a lean body, and possibly some low-level biohacking. But it's not just me talking on here. I've got other people who are into the space who are contributing as well. So if you're at all interested, get in while you can, and then we'll just grow from there. So other than that, let's get on with the episode. Dr. Carl, just like to thank you for coming on my show. Real excited to get more in depth into red light therapy and the history of how it's helping into the general health and biohacking world. But I know you've been doing this for a long time. My audience always likes to know like your history, how'd you get into this? And then we'll get into some of the fun stuff of application. So I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much. Listen, I love talking about this stuff. I want you to know that I started in 1972. I was a junior at a good college in New York, and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. I got introduced to, and I was a little bit rebellious. I was my form of a hippie, which was I was more interested in helping people than I was about how much money I was going to make. I didn't mind. I wanted to do all right, but money was not my deciding factor in what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I got introduced to chiropractic, which was wacky in New York. Nobody knew anything about it. And the only few people that thought they knew about it thought I was crazy to go into that field. And I called chiropractors all over the country. And back in 72, to make a phone call long distance was not an easy thing. And we didn't have cell phones, computers, nothing of this stuff. But every chiropractor I called loved what they were doing. It wasn't even close. And I said, that's what I wanted. I wanted to do something that was wonderful, something inspiring, that I would look forward to waking up in the morning and going into work and not even consider it work, to be honest with you. And that's what happened. I graduated and became a chiropractor around 78, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was 20 years into my practice, being a wise guy from New York originally. Now I'm here in Mountain, California. And after 20 years of being in practice, a medical doctor, orthopedic surgeon out of USC, and was also a professor there, hands me what looks like a flashlight. And he says, he wanted me to shine it on people's bodies. He implied that he wanted me to help him save the world. Now, remember, this is an orthopedic surgeon, and he assumed that his fellow colleagues would join him in this endeavor. Well, not a one did. And the reason is, you go to a guy and say, look, over here, you can make tens of thousands of dollars doing a surgery or not. Which way are you going to go?
Yeah.
The vast majority said, no, thank you. Well, what was happening, though, with the red light therapy, when I brought it in, this flashlight of all things, it revolutionized my practice unexpectedly, to be honest with you. I was able to heal things that I never believed possible. I know people go, can you use the word healing? Yes. In this sense, there's been so much research done on the healing aspect of light therapy, it would blow you away. In fact, I tell people to go to Google Scholar. Google Scholar is a wonderful source. If you go to Google Scholar, you put in the words, and Google Scholar looks just like Google, and you put in the phrase red light therapy, and then anything else that you're interested in. Is it good for me? Could it hurt that condition that I have? In 50 years, this technology has been studied. There's never been a recorded side effect. You could not hurt anybody with this kind of stuff if you tried. So you go to Google Scholar and you will find tons of stuff on all kinds of things that are just remarkable. I want to give you an example. There I am, 20 years into my practice, introduced to red light therapy, and I loved it. We started with a class 1 device, which was state of the art at that time. As technology gets more popular, it gets better, it gets stronger, it covers more parts of the body. We were having nice success with class 1, then 2, class 3, and finally class 4, which is the maximum it can be. Then, about 14 something years ago, it was found out that there was an element of light that I was not using that could actually help in fat loss. And now I said, okay, wait a minute. Up until that point, I was very involved with light therapy, but I wasn't manufacturing. I said, that's it. I'm going in completely I started manufacturing, and it works. I'm going to go over the mechanism in just a little while. And come on, I mean, what's more popular in this country than fat loss? I mean, people are willing to do whatever. There are people out there that would put poison in their body, inject them with stuff that they don't know the side effects are. You know, I started with people who wanted to use fen-phan at my facility, and I wouldn't let them, because chiropractors are about not putting anything in the body that doesn't naturally belong there and not yanking anything out that does belong there, unless there's absolutely no other option. But our first method is to be natural and non-invasive. So here you have a non-invasive way of shrinking fat cells. You're not damaging anything. You're not freezing the fat, boiling the fat, lasering the fat, using radio frequency or ultrasonic cavitation or any of these things that are about destroying essential tissue. I'm not interested in hurting anything. So imagine if we can find a technology that will help us to release the fat out of the fat cells and get it out of the body. People ask, well, is it permanent? I tell everybody the same thing. Nothing's permanent unless you help. If you brush your teeth once a year, I don't think that's going to last. And if you take your exercise on rare occasions, that's not. Similarly here, there's not too many people that know as much about diet and weight loss as I do. When I was, I want to say 11 years old, my mother became an executive of Weight Watchers, which sounds like fun, but we never had a good thing to eat again. Bean sprouts instead of spaghetti. It was terrible, but I learned a lot. And I used what I learned in my practice, helping my patients. Imagine if a patient loses 40 pounds, imagine what a burden that's not on the spine. It helps the spine tremendously. Some people are obsessed with full. Some people have a difficult time in losing the fat. Now, if we can put them on I hate the word diet, because diet implies a beginning and an end. And when the diet ends, that's it. You're going to put the weight back on. But if you change lifestyle, if you add a smart way, not a starvation diet, not so restrictive that you're going to rebel against, because anyone can do it for a day or two. We wanted you to be on a smart diet for the rest of your life with occasional snacks and stuff. You have a dessert, but not as often. That's what I've always been teaching my patients. That's what I incorporated. Imagine that, putting them on what we call a smart diet, which is low on starchy, carbohydrates, simple sugars, sodas, and alcohol, and calorically neutral, not starvation diet, and add red light therapy. The results are not subtle. I had a lady that called me up about a month or so ago, and she said she lost 17 inches in a matter of a month.
Yeah, that's insane.
Less than a month. She didn't have to kill herself for it. Anyone can lose it if you starve yourself. That's not what this is about. So once I found that out, I said, that's it. I'm getting involved with manufacturing. I started manufacturing equipment. We did lasers and pads and panels and stuff like that. We were having very nice results. What we were assuming at the time was the state-of-the-art equipment. Then something happened to all of us, which was called COVID. And my practitioners, we had hundreds of them at that time, they wanted less physical contact between the patient and themselves. So we came up with a bed. And the first bed we came up with looked a lot like a tanning bed, because the company we hired to assist us on putting my lights in their tanning bed was a tanning bed. And it was the state of the art at the time. You don't need staff for this. The patient can get in and out of the bed themselves. And we are now on generation 5 of bed. So that first one we created that many years ago was fine, but now it's even better. What we found remarkable and what we learned is that when you bathe the whole body at the same time, that's when the miracles come. So when we were covering one part of the body or another, it was nice. You know, I could do the elbow, the shoulder, the back, whatever. Now, when you bathe it head to toe, left and right, front and back, inside and out, we can make such a dramatic change. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
What I do is I ask people, what would you do if someone called you up and they said, listen, I'm having a heart attack once, if not twice a week. Have you ever heard of that before? What would you do for such a thing? Would you raise your hand and say, yeah, I'm going to heal him. Come on into my office. Would you, if you're a chiropractor, adjust him a little different? If you're an acupuncturist, would you throw a few extra needles in there? You know, if you're a nutritionist or whatever, I'm not knocking those things, but no one had an answer. So 12, 13 years ago, when he had first started having these heart attacks, now he was a mess even before that, but when the heart attack started happening, they implanted a defibrillator in his chest. And that was when he was having it once a month, then twice a month. By the time we met him, it was as much as twice a week.
Wow.
And he was on his last leg. Every organ, every gland, everything was suffering, because if you want to kill off a part of your body, restrict blood flow. Well, that was his whole body. The practitioner calls me up and says, should I even treat him? I don't want him having a heart attack in my office. I said, let's just treat him for 5 minutes. A dose is normally 12 minutes. We're going to treat him for 5 minutes and stay in the room the whole time. That patient went home that night and it had a profound effect on him. And he's had more treatment, but he's never had another heart attack. And that was 2 years ago. Hundreds of heart attacks and dying. And now everything has come back to life. The way he describes it is that his energy is now through the roof and everything is better. Everything, his blood pressure, his pulse, everything is better. So I'm going to send you a bunch of testimonial videos that you're more than welcome to share with your audience. I'm also going to send you the show notes, including Google Scholar and all that stuff. Results are nothing short of incredible. So this guy couldn't walk. Now he's walking. This person was going blind. He had Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy, which is a LHON. There's a community of these people. It's essentially MS, multiple sclerosis of the retina. And it acts like a cavity that's eating away at the retinal nervous tissue. He is destined to go blind. That's what they had assumed was going to happen to him. So I told you, the worst that'll happen with anybody is nothing. So let's try it. And we halted the progression. Absolutely. I don't think we're ever going to get back what he lost. We stopped the progression. They'd never seen that before. And even our patients that have MS, we stopped the progression. They've never seen that before. So it's just been absolutely incredible. The kind of things that you would be hard pressed. I'm going to tell you to your audience, you are no longer allowed to complain about any aches, pain, any condition you have, unless you try this bed. We have hundreds of locations all over the country for 6 times. That's 3 times a week for 2 weeks, 12-minute doses. That's it. If you, at the end of the 6 visits, you don't see any change at all, one of 2 things happen. 1, they forgot to plug the bed in, or 2, you have some very rare, unusual situation, because I've hardly ever heard of that. On almost every instance, we'll see change. Now, it might take more than 6 visits, but in 6 visits, you should see a change. So let's take Parkinson's, for example, with the severe tremors. By the end of the 6th visit, you'll still have tremors, but instead of them being so severe that you can't hold the Bible when you go to church, this was this woman's complaint. Her main complaint was that even though she had many ailments because of the Parkinson, that was her main thing that bothered her. That was her handicap, so to speak. She hated that. And after 2 weeks, now she can hold the Bible. She still has the tremors, but they're so much less severe, she can hold the Bible. So if you have any kind of arthritis or any musculoskeletal issue, autoimmune disease, Crohn's disease, we have people with 20 years of diarrhea. Now they're normal. Dementia, diabetes. These are alphabetical listed here because I forget sometimes things. We had this one lady that her kidneys were so bad off that she was probably a month away from needing dialysis. After 2 weeks of treatment, her kidneys are absolutely normal. No need for dialysis. So you can see why the medical profession wouldn't always be thrilled with this, because in this country, it's very profit oriented.
Yeah.
And you make more money with sick people than you do with healthy people. Just remember that. The main focus is not to stop you from getting sick. It's to help you once you get sick, which has cost a lot more money. As a chiropractor, we've always been into preventive care, trying to get you to take care of yourself so that you don't have these emergencies. I'm 73 years old, and my intention is not about living longer. I want to live as well as I possibly can. There's the difference between health span and life span.
Yep.
I don't care about lifespan. I care about health span. Well, I care about both.
Well, I care about both, but yeah, definitely more focused on
most
health
people
span.
in this country are living their last 20% of their lives.
Yeah.
They're invalids. They can't get around. They can't function well. I don't want that. It's easy to get this way. I'll tell you how. You get scared out of your wits, because so many of my patients would come to my office and they were a mess. And I would say, under my breath, please God, don't let me wind up like that. I don't want that. The reason why you out there are not taking care of yourself is because you're not scared enough. You're not scared enough. You don't know at your age, 30, 40, 50 years old, what is your life going to be when you're 75? What is it going to be like? I used to teach a class, will you be dancing when you're 75? The truth of the matter is there's a lot of people, they can't function. They can't walk up and down the stairs. It's not just about red light therapy. We know you got to eat smart and exercise 3 times a week. At least. Yeah. So it's 3 times a week. It's mostly for me, I believe, I teach my patients about cardiovascular more than anything. So getting your heart beating and moving as many muscles at the same time. So treadmill, elliptical, or outside or whatever, but you want something that's not impactful. You don't want to start exercising and now you can't move because you sprained your ankle or ruined your knee. So you want them to be getting the low impact and stay with that. That's where the elliptical comes in. You're not really doing any impact. You're just moving as many muscles as you possibly can and getting your heart to a target. And all you have to do is go to either ChatGPT or Google it and just see what is your proper resting heart rate. And then when you bring up the cardiovascular system to a certain level, it should be probably 40 points above what you're resting. So if you're normally at 80, you want to get it for 30 minutes or close to that at 120. You want to get it up higher.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I tell my clients. You need to start getting more comfortable with being uncomfortable. Not hell on earth, but a little uncomfortable from zone 2 cardio or working out for 20 minutes. You get a little sweaty. Comfort comes after. Don't worry, it's coming. You can have the rest of your night and chill out and all that, but you need to do these things to get a reaction for your body to stimulate these longevity genes, putting more muscle on, all this kind of stuff.
The reason why they're not scared enough. They're not listening to their 75-year-old self going,
Not yet.
So that's pretty much what I was, describing here. I liken well-being like a candle that burns bright right from the beginning all the way down to the bottom and then sputters out and dies. Again, that's not how most people are living their lives in this country. I wish it was. I do want to describe a few things. First, I don't make a penny from what I'm about to say. And that is, if you want to know more about red light therapy, you can buy my book. All profits, and it's not a very expensive book, all the profits go to charity. And the book is called Illuminated Healing. So if you want to be more knowledgeable about red light therapy, it's all in that book. Yeah. The other thing is our website, and it's called Trifecta. And the word trifecta stands for the triple effect: face, fat, and healing. Initially, that's what this whole thing was about. When we went to the bed, we realized it's a lot more than that. But this was even before we had the bed. We're dealing with pads: face, fat, and healing. If you go to trifectalight.com and go to the Contact Us page, remember, I made a challenge to all of you that you're no longer allowed to complain about anything, about your condition. You've got to at least try 6 visits. That's 12 minutes a dose for 6 visits, 3 times a week for 2 weeks. Try that. So you go to the website, trifectalight.com, go to the Contact Us page. On the left side, it says, are you looking for a provider? And we can't list all the providers on there for privacy reasons, but we can find the closest location for you. If we don't have a location near you, then it's your obligation to find a health practitioner. I'm kind of a laugh out loud kind of thing, but we need to get more beds out there. We have about 400 in order to blanket the country. On the right side of that Contact Us page is an opportunity for you to decide, is this a smart thing to incorporate in your business? If you want to be busier, or if you want to help a lot more people and make more money. I've never seen anything like this before. You're going to be able to get, people, one thing I teach in my lectures and to teach chiropractors and other doctors how to market and manage their practice. Satisfied patients that refer. It's excited patients that do. Yeah. And you're never going to see more excited people as you will from this, where this guy couldn't walk, now he's walking, and he's going to refer a whole bunch of people to you. This person couldn't see well, and now they see better. This person had uveitis, which is a precursor to glaucoma. If she didn't treat this, she'd go blind. The treatment was an injection in her eye, and it was horrific. After just 2 weeks of using red light therapy, that pressure was back to normal.
Wow. And was she getting her eyes stimulated by the red light inside the bed? Or you're supposed to keep your eyes open?
I love that question. If I'm going to tell you that the lights can get through your skull and get to the brain, you know that the lights can get to your eyelid and get to your eyes.
Okay.
So is it harmful to have your eyes open? No. But imagine taking a very strong flashlight and just staring at it.
Yeah.
It's a very strong light. So it might give you a little headache if you had your eyes open most of the time. Can you open your eyes up? Of course, you can just look around. But mostly we keep our eyes closed and let that glorious energy into the eye. We're talking about macular degeneration, macular edema. We're talking about uveitis, as I mentioned. We're talking about cataracts, depending on or along the cataract design. But also from the simplest point of view, it helps with floaters. We've heard phenomenal results. Within 2 weeks, the floaters stopped.
Yeah.
We had one guy, one of his floaters in one eye was so big that it was hampering his eyesight. He couldn't see. And after a couple of weeks, that went away. So people get in the bed, they have their eyes closed and their mouth open. We want to get this beautiful energy.
As much tissue as possible, right?
So we're going to get it into the throat, the tongue, gum disease. We'll have great results with that.
So Dr. Carl, without going too crazy into the science, because people can read the book and everything, from my understanding and why you wanted to get on all the tissue you possibly can is, and I don't know if stimulation is the right word, but in my mind, what you're trying to do is stimulate more mitochondria, healthier mitochondria, and more mitochondria count to help fix all these things in the body, right? Or does red light do other things besides the mitochondria?
It does other things.
Okay.
And so a couple of other things. One, I will tell you that going to the YouTube channel makes sense. So if you go to YouTube and put in the @ and Trifecta Light Official, and again, I'll send you these show notes.
Yeah.
And you'll see over 130 videos now, and they go over a lot of the things that you and I are describing. So now it kind of makes sense that we talk about the mechanism without going crazy. People need to know that, yes, the mitochondria is involved, but it's a little more involved than that. There are two completely separate mechanisms. On one hand, there's the mechanism of fat loss, completely separate thing that was discovered only 12, 13 years ago, purely by accident. And then the other mechanism, which is how it affects all the other things, starting at the top of your head, hair restoration as you work your way down to the eyes, the mouth, the thyroid, and everything between your top of your head and your bottom of your feet. You'd be hard pressed to find any part of your body that we have not seen beautiful results.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about fat loss first.
Okay.
And this is simple. About 14 years ago, they discovered that when doing plastic surgery, if they did red light, if they did liposuction, if they did the red light first and only red light, it doesn't work with any other colors. It only works with red. What they found was that an element of red light will actually help to allow for them when they were doing the surgery, the fat came out easier. So it was assumed that the fat was being melted or something like that. But what they've since learned is that a certain element of red light, which we've incorporated into our bed was the first company 12, 13 years ago to integrate red, which is fat loss and some healing, and the other element, which is near infrared.
Okay.
Now, you've heard of far infrared. When someone says infrared, they really mean far infrared. Far infrared is a way of getting deep penetrating heat. Near infrared used to be called cold laser, not because it was literally cold, but it didn't get hot.
Okay.
And that's where the beauty is. It's the near infrared. Far infrared is not about healing. It's just about getting some nice heat. And if that was the only thing I wanted people to do, I'd say, go take a hot shower and get in a jacuzzi. Yeah. We're going to go way beyond that. It's affecting the mitochondria, as I'm going to describe in a moment. But getting back to the red, what they found was that these elements of red light can actually help to change the fat cell wall to become more porous temporarily. So it doesn't damage it. It's not freezing. It's not doing all those other things that are about destroying fat cells. This is not about that. This is about changing the fat cell wall temporarily to allow the fat contents to leak out into the surrounding tissue. With our unique protocol, we move the fat away from the fat cells and eventually to the liver for use of elimination. And that's how simple that is. Wow. And it works. Now, the problem there, if you want to call it a problem, is that if you're healthy, that mechanism I just described happens very easily. Getting the fat around the fat cells, eventually to the liver, if you have a healthy body, that happens very easily. If you have poor circulation, especially lymphatic circulation, then it still works, but it's going to take longer. Instead of isolating and only doing fat loss, our goal is to get that person overall healthier, which this therapy will do. Getting that person to have a better lymphatic flow is critical. So everybody, when they get off our bed, we then put them on something that will increase the lymphatic flow. Now, you've heard of people they wear these, like what looks like fireman pants to squeeze the fat out.
Compression pants and everything.
I've been studying this for 20 years. I believe there's nothing that moves the lymphatic system around better than whole body vibration. The person's upright, which is a much smarter way of doing this. That vibratory method will move the lymphatic system better than anything we've ever seen. It takes 10 minutes. Yeah. So with the compression pants, you're talking about 45 minutes, and it's a big pain in the butt. And it works, it's fine. But, a lot of chiropractors, we're telling them when you put this in your practice, you can see 3 people an hour because it's a 12-minute dose. And then they leave the room, they go on a 10-minute whole body vibrational unit, and that's it. It's very simple, and it works beautifully. Wow. So I love red light therapy, and I love the red light bed. But I also very fond of whole body vibration. So the person gets off the bed, gets on the whole body vibration, and that enhances that fat loss. So now we're going to go over to the little bit more involved and the miracle part. Remember, I was a hippie. I love the miracle part. The miracle part is that Arnett was having a heart attack. It has to do with Steve that had 40 years of Lyme disease. It ruined his life. He was miserable, hated his life. I'm going to send you the video, and I want you all to watch Steve's video on Lyme disease. When I was interviewing him, it was giving me goosebumps just listening to what he was saying and what a profound difference it made to his life. Again, these are all about life-altering changes. We're not playing games here. We're taking a very serious thing going on here. All right, so how does it work? What they found is that it's about sunlight. There are elements of sunlight that we kind of stay away from, but there are 4 elements of sunlight that we have incorporated into our bed. 2 elements of red, 2 elements of near infrared, integrated that together, magnify it many times, and drive it into the person's body. Sun would do, but a fraction of the power. So if we told Arnett, who was having a heart attack, go sit out in the sun, it wouldn't make that kind of difference. But because we've taken that sunlight and magnified so many times and drive it deep into his body, that's what made this huge difference. So what is it about? So they found that each part of your body is made up of tissues, and every tissue is made up of cells. When I went to school, I was taught that every cell had a single mitochondria in it. Well, that turns out to not be true. In fact, the heart, which has the highest demand for energy, the mitochondria is about energy, called the powerhouse of the body. One mitochondria, but the heart has over 5,000 mitochondria. And the mitochondria, it's so critical to you. Mitochondria makes up 10% of your body weight. Nobody would believe that. I didn't. I had to look insane. Because I heard I was speaking. This other guy says 10% of your body weight. I said, "Are you sure?" 10 million billion mitochondria make up 10% of your body weight. That's how critical it is. And what they found was that the mitochondria stimulates a production of ATP. ATP is the energy currency. It's why you function. It's also involved with healing. It's involved with everything about your body. You have the right amount of ATP and you're healthy. And you don't have the right amount of ATP, called mitochondrial dysfunction, leading to lack of proper ATP production. It'll eventually lead to disease and finally death. Get in the bed. And that's where you'll see this huge difference here. But they realized that the mitochondria itself is not a chromophore. Now, what is a chromophore? A chromophore is something that is stimulated by sunlight. And so there are chromophores in your body that are stimulated by sunlight. The mitochondria were not. So what was it they found in the walls of the mitochondria is an enzyme called cytochrome C oxidase. And cytochrome C oxidase is a chromophore stimulated by the wavelengths that we're using in the bed to bring that mitochondria back to health and get you back to the ATP production that will help you in so many different ways. Not only with how well you function, even with clarity, energy, better sleep, better all kinds of stuff, but even feeling better about yourself, your life. I mean, it brings more joy. So there's actually a mechanism that penetrates the skull, gets to the brain, and brings more joy to the body. So when I tell you that mitochondria is so critical, there's also evidence that will stimulate nitric oxide, which is about getting more circulation in the body. Yeah. It's also about stimulating other things, including collagen and elastin, why the skin will look so beautiful. Like I said, the triple effect of face, fat, and healing. The face will make you look much younger. People are going to notice. You're going to look better. The skin's going to look better. Collagen formation. So there we are. We've stimulated the mitochondria to come back to life by getting cytochrome C oxidase, which is a chromophore, which is stimulated by sunlight or R4 wavelengths, and bring that body back to normal. And that's what chiropractic is about. Chiropractic believes in innate intelligence. Our job is to get rid of the interference. If you have a bullet in your shoulder, let's get that bullet out, because you can do all kinds of magic. But if the bullet's still in there, let's get the bullet out, put a bandage of it, and then get the heck out of the way and let the body do its thing. That's called innate intelligence. The body knows better about how to do these things than we do. And when you get involved with interfering with that, with some of the medications that people take and with some of the other methods, that's not smart. Stimulating the body to do its own thing or do it better, that's what this is about. And that's why we talked about Steve, we talked about Arnett. Jessica had 16 unbelievably horrific problems, including 3 forms of psoriasis: glutate psoriasis, plaque psoriasis, and psoriatic arthritis. And after 2 visits, the dactylitis she had, which is essentially, it's called sausage toe, when she would wake up in the morning, her toes would be black and blue and swollen and painful as that. And after 2 visits, that stopped. Never came back. And she's also had 16 issues. She needed the injections in her eye. She was the first one I heard about injections in the eye. Now I'm hearing about it more often. I didn't realize each dose of that injection is $5,000 they bill to the insurance. Wow. Anyhow, as you can tell, I'm a little crazy about this stuff.
So Dr. Carl, just to recap, the bed has both red light and near infrared in it to do an all-in-one experience, full body, all your tissues. The fat loss light is more kind of the red light. The near infrared light, what's its specialty? Is that blood flow and nitric oxide?
That's the mitochondrial stimulation.
So the red light goes back to restructuring the fat walls to where it can leak out and be used. That's why you call it the fat burning one.
Well, we're not going to use the word fat burning, but
sure.
Red has some healing qualities.
And it has
but it's the only thing that has anything to do with fat loss.
Okay.
So since my company was only involved with near infrared, we never learned about this until this other company that specialized in red light only. They're the ones that discovered fat. My company was the first one to integrate the red and the near infrared. So someone might say, well, what if I don't want to lose any weight? What if I'm the perfect weight? Well, what they found is that red light only targets excessive amounts of fat. So that person's not going to wind up skin and bones when this is all said and done.
Yeah.
And so what you want to look for, people ask me about masks and helmets and all these different things, and they're fine, they're toys. What I'm looking for is the miracle, which is full body coverage. So now what should you be looking for in a full body coverage? Number one, you want medical grade lights. These are very high end lights. When you create something great, you're going to find all kinds of crap knockoffs that are going to look similar, but they don't do the same thing. And they're poison, and I'll tell you why. What happens is someone uses one of these inferior devices and they go, I didn't see any difference. Of course you didn't see any difference because that's junk compared to what you want.
Yeah.
They kind of taint the whole industry. You want to find something where the lights are what they call medical grade. You also want to find lights that come very close to the body. Some of these lights that are inferior, they get very hot. Now, heat is the enemy. If the near infrared is cold, it shouldn't get hot. It should be warm at most. So if your devices are getting hot, they're not using high-end medical grade device. Our top canopy comes onto the person's body, not the weight of it, but it approximates the body because we want these lights as close to the body as possible. As your lights come away from the body, you lose power exponentially.
Yeah.
And that is not a good idea. You want the capability of customizing the dose so that someone who's 80 pounds is not getting the same dose as someone who's 400 pounds.
Yeah.
So with the 80 pounder that has no flesh hardly at all, they can't absorb much of this. They're going to feel heat if they're at the same power that the 400 pounder who has lots of flesh can absorb and not notice the heat. So you want to be able to customize. I think another very important thing we have here is the ability to pulse the wave. You've heard of PEMF, different ways of creating what we call resonating frequencies.
Yeah.
What they found is that different tissues will resonate with different frequencies. And with the light, we can pulse that wave and create that resonating frequency. Now, when someone buys our bed, they get 32 things with that purchase, which includes the basic training, the advanced training, and we actually hire a business coach for you to make sure that you have no chance of being highly successful. I will tell you that anybody that knows anything about the body, you need a full body bed in your practice. I don't care if it's an esthetician, a massage therapist, if it's a chiropractor, of course, anybody in the healing industry would do phenomenally well with it. But it's whole fitness centers, it's weight loss, it's almost anything. Even the most difficult people I have to deal with are the psychologists. They say, it's a placebo. You go to Arnett, who is having a heart attack once or twice a week, tell him, it was just in your head, but it helps psychologically. I had this lady that she wrote me, if this is how normal people feel every day, I can't believe I've been missing out all this time. She hated her life before. And after just a short period of using light therapy, she loves it. So for those of you that want to try it, go to the website, trifectalight.com, and you'll be able to go to the contact us page to find a location closest to you. You're no longer allowed to complain. You cannot complain about your ailments until you've tried 6 visits with the light. And I can't begin to tell you how many miracles we've found, how many people had doubts whether it would help. And we had doubts. You think I thought we would help Annette with his heart attacks? I don't know. Now we know. I don't care if you have a heart issue, you better get into bed. And I didn't know that we would have that much results with Steve, who had 40 years of Lyme disease, and it changed his life. Wow. Anyhow, I tell you what builds a business is passion and belief. What we're talking about is doing it better, gracefully. And that's what the bed can do, is give you an opportunity. We call it the fountain of youth. It's a way of doing it better. You're still going to get home. I'm sorry.
Well, Dr. Carl, I got one last question on that bed. The fact that it has red light and near all built into it for all these great benefits, is there ever any reason where someone with some ailment should only do a red light only bed or a near red light only bed?
If that was true, we can shut the red off or we can shut the near in.
You can power what you need to.
But that never happens. Listen.
Okay.
Red is pretty decent for healing, but it also helps with fat loss. Near infrared, I would never shut that off. Why would not? So if you can't tell, I love this stuff. If you're an athlete, I guarantee you that if you get in the bed before your activity, before your competition, you'll perform better. And then you get in the bed again soon after the activity will recover much quicker. So that's why we have the NBA. That's why we have it with the Olympic training centers. That's why we have some major athletic facilities. Like one of the ones that surprised us, but now it makes sense, is boxing, because boxers in general. Just any sport, you have a chance of getting injured. But in boxing, you're guaranteed to get injured. They're using their bed preventatively all along, but now they're going to go in daily or their bout. Now they're ready. And then they get in again after the bout, and they'll recover much faster and much more thoroughly.
Yeah. Going back to fat loss, you were talking about how the structure of the fat cells change, and that's the reason why it has such success with getting a bit more fat loss. Is that something to where you would want to do that treatment for however length of time, 12 minutes or whatever? Is there a time window of you're in the zone right now with opening up all the structures of your fat cells? You should go do something like working out or running within the next half hour to get the most bang
we
for
go
your
right
buck.
into the whole body vibration.
That's why you have that.
Then you go immediately into the whole body vibration. First of all, that's only temporary. We're not damaging the fat cells. You have that window. And then we put them right away immediately. We get them on the whole body vibration. It's for more than one reason. These are not necessarily the most disciplined people. If I said, after this, I want you to go and run or work around the block. They might do it, they might not. So we don't let you leave the office without getting on that for 10 minutes.
If someone were to buy, what would you tell them that they should do right after they finish their session?
Our bed comes with the whole body vibration plate.
Oh, it's all one set. Okay.
We include 32 things with the purchase, not only the training, all the items, everything that you need to be successful, either at home Or in a
Mhm.
business, we also include the marketing and print material that you probably don't need for your home. But we sell about 10% or maybe 8 to 10% of our sales are home use. 90 something percent is for business. And the results with the business are spectacular. And I
Wow.
will tell you, people say, is it a standalone kind of thing? Or do you have to add all these other things? Chiropractors love toys. When I go to a typical chiropractic office, I had 12 practices, including myself, I had a lot of toys. And so when you go to a chiropractor, they have a bunch of stuff. What I have found now is that I don't need any of those things. I'm not in practice now, but I teach people, keep it simple.
Yeah.
When you throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at this individual, they don't know what helped and what didn't. So if you're sitting there and throwing everything at them, they can't tell you, was it the cold plunge? Or do you have a hyperbaric chamber? Or the oxygen hydrogen thing, or whatever. I tell you, all you need is the whole body vibration unit, and more importantly, the full body bed. You can have more things, but it confuses the situation. If the goal here is passion and belief to build any business, and you don't know, then you don't have it. When I have such a level of certainty that when someone comes to me and says, I have this such and such an ailment, I say, in fact, this was a mug my staff put together. Read that.
Get in bed.
That's my
The
attitude.
right one.
Just get into bed. And, you're looking for miracles. You don't want to skimp when it comes to your health. Some people actually do things based on price, but then when they're really sick and they have to wind up in the hospital, they don't have an option.
And then they're going into debt.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know that the majority of reason people go into bankruptcy is medical costs. It's one of the main reasons why people go into debt. So you want to avoid that.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Just for myself, I know the first thing I want to do is get your book, read that, go on your website to see where the closest centers or beds are so I can get my 6 sessions in. And I think that's a good starting spot besides just checking out your website.
Absolutely. I also think they should go to the YouTube channel. I love that channel. They did a really good job. Many of it's interviews with me, but they made the videos really beautiful. I'm not an artist.
No, definitely. I like doing my research, going on podcasts, going on YouTube and watching long form content. So that's a great suggestion. But Dr. Carl, just want to thank for your time and also your passion. Like you said, that's besides having passion for something in a business, number 2 is having testimonials. And it seems like you got those. Thanks again for coming on.
Take care.